Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This morning we have Bill Shelton accompanying us on the piano and our very first congregational song today. You will find in the pink book on page 33, this little light of mine. Please rise and body your spirit as you are willing and able to sing, to join in singing this little light of mine.
Page 33. Maybe if we sing loud, we'll get more audience. Okay, all four verses. We're going to do all four verses. And I got a sort of a trademark unique introduction, which I do. From page 33. I got a little instrumental introduction I'd like to do with this. And the theme of it is light. Everybody awake? I'm trying to give that some energy.
Good morning and welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a spiritual community philosophically based on existentialist and feminist principles, dedicated to human liberation and the protection of the natural world. We make our spiritual home here in the old stone church, which was hand-built by members of the African American Antioch East Baptist Church more than 100 years ago. We acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African Americans from the area, and we honor them and the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muskogee Creek people were driven from this land, and we support justice for all indigenous people. My name is Patton White, and I will be facilitating today's celebration of life. For our opening activity, I would like to invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Place your hands together and bring our attention to our cellular level and the fluid within at the cellular level is our most basic fluid state. It brings us our awareness of being and rest and stillness. That we may bring with us for the remainder of our time together today. And we can go ahead and open up our eyes and flow into the next point in our service, which is if anyone has a community announcement that they would like to share, please write it down on a piece of paper that you can find at the back of the sanctuary and pass it up to me within the next few minutes. Do we have anyone here for the first time or the second time or who hasn't been around for a while? Yes, would you like to let us know who you are and how you came to be here?
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I was excited about the lecture today, and been here till
Well,
Welcome.
welcome. Anyone else? All right. I would like to draw your attention in our bulletin. We have a connection card that can be filled out, torn off, and placed in the collection plate later on in the celebration of life. If you would like more information about us, we have a weekly e-blast that lets people know what's going on and also includes a recording of the previous Sunday's, actually a link to the recording of the previous Sunday's celebration of life, which is on our YouTube channel. And we also have a monthly newsletter to let everybody know what is going on and when. Any birthdays or anniversaries to celebrate today? All right, then we'll go ahead and sing our next congregational song, which is on page 50, also in the pink book, Oh Freedom. Please rise and body your spirit as you are willing and able. 50, 5-0.
Not to be confused with Hawaii Five-O. We're going to sing all 5 of these verses, so the last one they'll be singing. And I'd like to say that Stella Simonson helped me choose these congregational songs. She knew what Art was talking about, so she helped me pick them. All right.
Oh, freedom, oh, At this time, I'd like to welcome Marcia to come forward and share a moment from our fellowship minister.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good to have you here on this cold February day. Glad you decided to make a choice to come out and be with us. I don't really have a whole lot to say this morning, except that I am very glad that I'm here, that I'm healthy, and that feels good. And I hope that each of you are doing what you need to do, get your flu shot, get your COVID shots, whatever you feel like is the best thing for you to do so that you can stay well. Because being sick is a bummer. And so I missed y'all while I was not here. But I do hope that everybody stays well, that you enjoy the cold and the rain that we're going to have come in later today. And have a great week. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Marcia. If anyone has a congregational announcement, now's the time to bring it forward while I start reading those that I already have. First, mark your calendars to support local artists. First Existentialist member Wade Marbaugh will perform in a play about Black Wall Street and the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot on February 29th and March 1st and 2nd at the Porter Sanford Center for the Performing Arts in DeKalb County. The play, Deep Greenwood Ignited, explores race relations and features the visionaries who created Black Wall Street in Tulsa and their resilience to rebuild it after a racist mob destroyed it. The play has received standing ovations in places like Tulsa, Kansas City, Raleigh, and Greensboro. It includes Black gospel stars Vicki Winans and Byron Cage. Flyers are available on the back table, or you can check in with Wade, who's back there in the corner. Next Saturday, the Land Trust is having a fundraiser here. Let's see. I'm not sure I'm interpreting the next part of this correctly. Expand band?
Expand.
Oh, Expand Fest?
Featuring.
Expand, featuring Craig Rayfuse and Bill Fleming. What time is that on Saturday?
I don't know. Yes, at 8 o'clock-ish.
Teddy, the here?
Yes. It's going to the Land Trust is here, and so it'll be on the Land Trust websites and stuff.
Any other announcements? Yes, Peter.
Last weekend, I made a horrible mistake. I was sitting back there and I had a Baltimore coat on. It's one of my favorite coats. And I just was wondering, I'll look the other way. If you want to, if you have it, I'm not accusing anybody of that, but it broke my heart when I realized I didn't have it.
My guess is it may be around here somewhere. There's all sorts of little hiding nooks and crannies that articles of clothing. That's Bill.
I was here at the end, and it got to somewhere safe. Ask Mary Howard when she showed up. I don't know where they ended up putting it, but it's safe.
The code is safe. All right. We will now move on to time of silence, which is approximately 5 minutes where we allow ourselves to be in community with one another quietly as we reflect in whatever way we choose to spend this time. We do have candles on either side of the sanctuary if you would like to make use of those as well. Welcome back. Our next congregational song is on page 70 in the Pink Book. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. Please rise and body your spirit as you are willing and able. Page 70.
For 5, repeat first verse as is. We'll just do the top 4. So the last verse will be, I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. And we all know the song. I'm not really going to take the time to introduce this. This is something I created. It's, I'll talk a little about it. It takes about 4 minutes. It's all instrumental. And the different segments were written by Paul McCartney, John Lennon, Gary Brooker, if anybody knows who he was, Carl Czerny, me, and Lucy Overland, and that's about it. So here we go. And I had great joy in creating this. Worked really hard on it. Would help if I played it right. tragedy of it. I say pretty good. I work hard on it.
This morning I have the privilege of introducing our speaker for today. Originally from Harlem, New York, Art Jones has traveled and worked in academia in several Middle and Far Eastern countries for many years. He has lived in Atlanta for the past 10 years. He is an indie filmmaker whose documentary, Ali's Comeback, has been screened locally and internationally and has received much acclaim from viewers such as Andrew Young, Michael Julian Bond, Sam Massell, and Ali's second wife, Kahlilah Ali. The documentary explores the rich history surrounding Muhammad Ali's comeback boxing match in Atlanta in 1970, after Ali was banned from boxing for 3 years because of his conscientious objection to the Vietnam War. Currently, Art is working on another historical documentary, Constructing Whiteness, which examines the relative freedom African Americans experienced before American colonies began to enact racist legislation that restricted their liberty and led to slavery and racial division. He observes, absorbs, and records insights about the world. His presentation today is a reflection of his most recent observations. Please join me in welcoming Art Jones.
Thank you, Peggy, for this very beautiful introduction. I wish I wrote that.
Could you get the microphone closer to your mouth?
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay, all right. Good morning, brothers, sisters, and esteemed members of the existentialist congregation. My original talk for today was kind of derailed due to something that I had seen on Fox News not too long ago when Brian Kilmeade asked the Republican candidate for presidency, Nikki Haley, very point blankly, he looked her straight in the eye and said, "Is the Republican Party racist?" Nikki took all of a millisecond to consider what he had to say, and before she shut right to, "America is not a racist country." She further doubled down on that by saying, "America has never been a racist country." Thank you for the audience participation. I thought initially I was experiencing some level of cognitive dissonance because I had just come back from 2 days in the air. I was in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam, traveling back to Atlanta, Georgia. Jet lag was making me kind of wobbly, and I saw this broadcast and I thought, "Oh, this is not good." But a day or so later, Jake Tapper of CNN had Nikki on his show, and he did his gracious best to try to allow her an opportunity to retract what she said to Brian Kilmeade earlier. Again, she took another millisecond to respond by getting into all men are created equal with her invoking the Declaration of Independence, and she went down this rabbit hole in this long diatribe that was really warm and fuzzy, and at the end of it she said the intent was that everybody was going to be equal. Didn't say they were, she said everybody was going to be equal. Her words reverberated in my head for a long time. And I thought, This is a person who's running for the highest office in the land. She receives a significant amount of media attention. And she has the largest megaphone in the country and perhaps in the world right now. And people who watch Fox News and CNN listen to her. TV, because she's on TV, she's also given a modicum of credibility. That's when I thought, Art, maybe you need to enter the fray. And today, this morning, if you will, I'd like to say a few words that will give a little greater clarity to what stuck in my mind when I heard Nikki Haley's words. And speaking of her words, this, I quote, she says, yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country. I love the audience participation. Had white racists defined Black America, there would never be great inventors such as Jan Messinger, who created the shoe last. If you look down at your feet right now, you might want to thank him. There would not have been a Garrett Morgan, who actually created a device that was designed to minimize traffic accidents when people drove into intersections. I don't know how successful it's been over time, but he is the inventor of the traffic light. And, of course, there's George Washington Carver, who created 300 food, industrial, and commercial products from a small peanut. We also had great minds such as W.E.B. Du Bois, who actually was a friend of Albert Einstein. And commanding orators such as Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Dr. Martin Luther King. More than any other ethnic group, blacks are keenly aware that what white people call them do not necessarily define them. And consider this, if you will. Without the system of racism, imagine the number of brilliant and dynamic black minds that might have also contributed to the growth of this nation. Nikki then says, we have to go back to loving America. Let me say that again. We have to go back to loving America. What I wanted to ask is, at what point has America created anything that would make Black Americans feel that it loves them? When you consider, unlike most of you who are here, who are ancestors of those who had come to this country seeking a better life for themselves, Africans, my ancestors, were snatched from their homeland. They endured the barbaric, cruel Middle Passage. And when they landed, they're these strange-looking people who yelled and screamed at them. They branded hot irons across their backs and their breasts. They separated them from family, language, religion, culture, and customs, and then sold them like livestock to the highest bidder. And this went on for the better part of 246 years. And yet, when given the opportunity, 270,000 Africans volunteered for the Union forces and almost single-handedly turned the tide in the Civil War, winning it for the North. There are countless instances of devotion and sacrifice that Africans have made for the sake of this country, and I think that those contributions have made it abundantly clear how much they actually love this country. Beginning past Nikki's questionable comments on America and its relationship with racism, let's take a look at the source of racism in America. Follow me, if you will, as we go back to 1619. It's August 20th, and the White Lion ship is a Dutch privateer ship, sails into Port Comfort in Jamestown, Virginia. The men on the ship have spent several days without provisions, decent water, and they asked if they could make a barter by exchanging 20 odd Africans for such provisions in clean water so that they could make their voyage up the East Coast. Of those 20-odd Africans, as noted by then Governor John Rolfe, there is scholarly debate as to whether these were slaves or indentured servants. Considering that the House of Burgess, which was the first actual governing body in the Jamestown colony, was only formulated a month before in July, and that the social system that existed was either the gentry landowner or the indentured servants. My tendency is to think that these Africans were injected into the current system that existed, and to help underscore that, I'd like to talk about by 1624, 5 years after these first Africans that arrived, 2 Africans who were on the Tucker plantation were allowed to convert to Christianity, marry, and they had a child. And as indentured servants, they produced a child that was deemed an actual free person. So the actual first free African in the Americas was in 1624, and his name is William Tucker. In that same time period, you have another African who came from Angola, but he wasn't part of the 20-odd who came in 1619. He had come in 1620, and his name was Anthony Johnson. He served as an indentured servant between 1620 to 1635. And once he completed his indenture, he was awarded 50 acres of land. He was given a musket, he was given gunpowder, he was given foam utensils in order to make productive the land that had been given to him, and he proved to be very industrious. Originally starting in Virginia, he later moved to Maryland, where he became a very successful pig and tobacco farmer. And he was one of the Africans who had come during the time who had elevated from the indentured servant class to the farmer class to the actual elite class, because by the time of his death, he had over 500 acres. And he had himself imported from Africa as well as Europe indentured servants to work on his plantation. So there's pretty clear evidence that indicates that the initial Africans who came in 1619 by the establishment in Virginia were not seen as slaves, but more so as indentured servants. Think about this. For those of you who can remember, there once was a time in which we thought that smoking was cool. It was glamorous. It was the thing to do. You know, I mean, how people, God, all the people that were smoking during the 50s and 60s and in all those movies. I'll never forget Casablanca and Rick. And during that time, we almost paid no attention to wearing seatbelts because it wasn't cool. Today, practically everybody wears a seatbelt when they drive, and almost nobody thinks smoking is cool anymore. There is no denying the overwhelming power American legal system has had in shaping the social order in which we live in. Among the myriad of factors that we can take into account when we trace the origin of racism in America, our strongest single clue is its legal system. For this, we go to the House of Burgesses to review the earliest laws aimed at separating human beings according to skin color. The earliest laws to separate Europeans and Africans that's documented comes in 1640. There's an indentured servant named John Punch. He's on a Virginia plantation with 2 others. One is a Dutchman named Victor, and another is a Scotsman named James. The 3 of them decide, we had enough of this, we're out of here. They leave Virginia and escape to Maryland. But soon after, they are all caught. They're brought back to Virginia. They go to court, and they are found guilty of trying to escape from their indenture, and Victor and James are given 4 more years that's added to their indenture. John Punch, however, is made an indenture for the duration of his entire life. This is the first time that legally you see a division between European and Africans who are accused of the same offense, but their sentences are drastically different. And thus, we begin to see the early seeds being laid to what later becomes a systemic racism in America. Moving up to 1656, Elizabeth Key is the daughter of a rather wealthy Englishman and an African woman. So she's a mulatto, and her father dies shortly after she's born, and as she is his only heir, there's a kind of, how do you say, conservatorship that's created that puts her into the indentured servant system. And after 20 years, and not being able to get out, there's a young English attorney who comes and argues her case, and by 1661, she is able to elevate herself from being an indentured servant. She and her infant son is now freed, and she is able to inherit the land that her father left. That great moment of excitement and jubilation and exuberance is kind of tempered by the House of Burgesses within a year enacts a new law that states that the actual status of lineage for those who are the survivors of someone who passes now shifts from the father. And bear in mind, this is a patriarchal culture. But now there's a shift from English common law in England to American law, or should I say English law as it exists in the colony. And so now that it's shifted from the father to the mother, the basis is laid for creating generational slavery for those who are born in the colony of African descent. But what actually breaks the camel's hump here is we notice that in 1676, this is an important date because as I was a kid growing up and taking history class, I was told to focus on 1776. But 1676 is a really important date because here you have Nathaniel Bacon along with about 1,000 farmers and indentured servants stormed Jamestown. They are marching arm in arm, carrying musket and pistol and saber, and they literally burned Jamestown to the ground. And maybe this is done because the elites in Jamestown began to impose unnecessary and very cruel taxes onto the farmer class and making it almost impossible for them to live. And the governor, Berkeley, flees with his life and he scurries up the Chesapeake Bay. In the aftermath of Bacon's rebellion, because it was put down, because King Charles realized that he wasn't going to get his cut from the tobacco that was being imported if the actual farmers and the Africans were the ones who took control of Jamestown. And at the end of the day, the rebellion is quelled, is crushed, and this is 1676, but by 1681, the very first laws enacted by the House of Burgesses where you see the term white being used in a new law that's enacted. And this was the law about the anti-miscegenation law, where it essentially said that Africans and Europeans should not cohabitate. And that law began a series of new laws between 1681 and 1723 that gradually peeled away the rights and privileges and humanity of Africans while offering a modicum of privileges to those of European descent. Coming full circle, Nikki quoted, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." As a politician, I would think that she maybe studied America's political structure and took a look at the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution and read it and interpreted it more carefully. Because if she had, she would realize that in 1787, when the Constitution was actually ratified, to be an American citizen, you had to be white, male, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, and own property. And by owning property is kind of code for owning other people. If you were Jewish, or if you were Muslim, or if you were a woman, if you were Hindu or Sikh, you were not down. You were not part of that process. And even if you were white male, Anglo-Saxon Protestant, if you didn't own land, you still were not an American citizen. In closing, had the politicians like Nikki and Tim Scott and Ron DeSantis took the time to crack open an American history book, they would have recognized, one, that the seeds to producing a racist nation were laid long before America became an independent nation. And two, racism in America blends together as naturally as vanilla ice cream on top of apple pie. For a woman of color, aspiring to the highest office of the land, along with her esteemed governor of Florida, it is unfathomable to contemplate that these people could be so consciously ignorant to America's racist past. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Art, for that little addendum. Nikki Haley was on Saturday Night Live in a cameo last night, trying to atone for her missteps, but we are going to have our closing congregational song in a moment, and then following that, brief closing words. So I'll ask Bill Shelton to come forward and prepare for our final song. It is on page 102 in the Pink Book. Ain't You Got It Right? Please rise and body your spirit as you are willing and able.
Here's a song we don't do too much. It's a call and answer type of thing. So I've asked Harold Parker.
I get to do the answer.
Well, I'm going to pray the first time through just to illustrate how it goes. I'll sing the line and then she echoes it. So it goes kind of like this. Here you Hey, you got it right. 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 To the tree of life. And then it goes, hello, my sister. yours or ain't you got it
And you
right?
got it right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's start it from the top, because this one we don't do too much. And it's called response, it's a little tricky. I remember last time I chose this one here, I was asked to stop and explain it. So we'll do the chorus, and then we'll do each of the 4 lines, and then we'll do the chorus again to end it. Here we go.
There's at least one very happy guy who found the jacket. Thank you all for cooperating.
Our closing words are actually a movement. I would like to invite everybody to stand as you are willing and able. This is from Qigong. It's called Shake the Tree. And it also is activating our synovial fluids, which are in our joints. And this is a mood enhancer that you can take with you anytime you feel like you want to happy yourself up a little bit. You smile while you do it. Shake the tree. First time I always do that with my students, they look at me like, once they start doing it, they're all on board. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Thank you again to Art Jones and your wonderful words. Next Sunday we will be hearing from Reverend Kimball Sorrells with their talk, Love, Reflecting on the Human Capacity and Need for Connection. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week. And this brings our congregation celebration of life to a close today. Thank you.